everyone, welcome back to the Silly Points podcast. I'm Suraj Srinivasan, and I'm here with Rishi Arjun and Lakshya Jain, and we're going to be covering the Ashes, the second test match, the pink ball test. Fairly lopsided again towards Australia. England, again, has a lot of work to do going to the third test. But before we get into that, anything big that happened recently for you guys or just in general?
I think I'm on break now. I mean, I'm sure you are. Wait, we go to the same school, Serge. But I just came home for winter break. It's been practicing a lot, really. I actually just came back from watching the USA Ireland game that's been played in Florida. Obviously a few of my boys are on that team. I know quite a few guys on that team, and USA won. The game just finished like 30 minutes ago, and they won pretty easily. I mean, they were 16 for 4 in the morning. But then,
and then 188.
Dishant Madani and Gurjit Singh both scored 50s. Marty Kane, who's from your area, Serge, San Diego, on debut scored 37 of 13 balls, I think. And then USA bowling was just on top. Saurabh, Ali Khan, the inexperienced U19 players as well, and Yasir and Rithvik, two guys I've played with before as well, all really stepped up too in the field and with the ball. And it was crazy, seeing them both to Paul Sterling, Ali Balberti, who both didn't get big scores, and then playing some top quality bowling as well. It's pretty good signs for USA cricket. So that was we were pretty excited about that.
So yeah, it was nice. Yeah,
I was pretty excited about that. I mean,
hopefully get more fans in the stadium. That'll be
that's
the next step.
I doubt it, but I'm sure a lot of people are watching in the US cricket circles. A bit disappointed. True. Like a couple of my boys made the team when they weren't in the 11, but hopefully they get their chances in the next couple games. But yeah, it's a pretty big deal, beating Ireland. This team, it's a fairly strong team. They were at the World Cup qualifiers. Just
Sterling looked set, but then he got a fairly good delivery, and then
that was a nice in cutter from Saurabh.
Yeah,
running through. Sterling's probably the best. He's probably the best batsman outside of the top 8 countries. So if you take you can still consider Ireland like a associate. I'm gonna take my glasses off. Yeah, if you still consider Ireland associate nation, he'd probably be the best associate batsman in the world.
He's really
good. So that was a big win. I'm excited for the series. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, good future for U.S. cricket. So
hopefully nice. Team's only gonna get better. I think it's a pretty exciting time in U.S. cricket right now.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. I guess moving directly into the Ashes, second test with a pink ball. I think you can say Stark is finally back in form. I feel like that's fair to say. Shane Warne got him fired up enough, I guess.
I think Shane Warne says a lot of things that I would not necessarily pay as much attention to, because I think Stark overall is judged by a standard that I think is a little bit unfair. Yes, he's had some issues with waywardness in the past. Yes, his record isn't necessarily as good as the one put up by Hazelwood or Cummins, but at the end of the day, this is a bowler who averages 27 in Test cricket with a strike rate of under 50. And that's better than what a lot of, great Test bowlers have had. And I think Australia, and the thing is this, that record hasn't actually changed that much over the course of the last few years. He's had good stretches, had bad stretches, but the truth is Mitchell Starc has always been a very, very good bowler who just has a slight issue of when he has an off day, it can be a little bit worse than the median off day. But when he's good and when he's on form, there's arguably no one more lethal in Australia. And the value
ball. He's a menace with the pink ball.
And the value that Starc provides, actually, people say, he just takes tail and wickets. That's not exactly true. But even if you look at Starc's amazing record against tailenders, I mean, look at how the Australian tail basically abused the English bowling throughout this test match. There's real value. Yeah.
He averaged 30 with the bat.
Yeah.
He's a bowling all-rounder, in my opinion, Mitchell Starc.
And that's the thing. It's important to have those bowlers who can put away, these tailenders, because that essentially gives you 3 or 4 wickets for almost for free. And that's real value.
Right. I mean, in the first innings, he wasn't entirely cleaning up the tail. I think the only tail batsman that he got was Broad. But everyone else was in the top order, right? So it was except for Butler.
He stepped up. He bowled really well this game. I think one thing, I think Chris Silverwood got some flack for saying he would have picked the same 11 in both the games. And when I look at it, I don't actually fully disagree with him. I mean, maybe the bowling selections in both test matches were bit suspicious, but you look at the batting for England. I agree. Like these are what they have. It's not like the backups on the bench are good either. Like there's a lot of suggestions now bringing Crawley into the team, who's a proven failure. We got Bairstow, a proven failure. Dan Lawrence, a proven failure. So it's like there's no depth in this team. This team's gonna get obliterated 5-0 in my opinion. I don't even want to cover the England team. Like let's be honest, it's just gonna be a redundant, repetitive combo that we've had for like what?
I mean, there's
12 months
definitely
now?
one player that we want to cover, right? That
I mean-
and that being Butler. But as a
I mean,
whole in the
I
team,
think
yeah.
I'd like
I think
to
Butler
actually just-
deserves a 30-minute segment.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
entire
But
test match deserves
look,
a 30-minute segment.
I think Surge. I think it might be good of good value to cover England, but in the
Mhm.
sense that I think everyone talks about, oh, their bowling wasn't up to par, or, oh, they don't have the depth or whatever. But if I'm being honest, there's two very simple things wrong with England, and I don't necessarily
Batting
know
and
if their
bowling.
bowling. No, I don't necessarily know if their bowling is as much to blame. Number one, their batsmen do not put up more than 250 runs in an innings. When you don't do that in Australia, your bowling has to be almost perfect for you to win a game. England, by virtue of their own mismanagement with Jofra Archer, don't have that, and that's entirely their fault. Secondly, here's the thing. If you look at the test in Brisbane at the Gabba, it's not as if England actually bowled badly, so to say. I mean, this test you might have had some legitimate complaints about not pitching it up enough, but on the whole, they weren't as bad of a lineup. What happens is that their catching is atrocious. And because of that, and because of their bowling tendency to overstep, they end up having to take 16 wickets to get 10.
Oh my god. I think Marnus, Warner, they've all been no-balled wicket, I think, right?
You need 16
Yeah.
wickets to get 10, and that's just not a feasible solution or a strategy to go forward. If you
Yeah,
don't
it's
put up more
definitely-
than 250, you need perfect bowling. And if you need to take 16 wickets and don't put up more than 250, you're done.
I think,
it's all of those small details, right? Those 1%ers that end up hurting England in the end.
but the overall
All the-
thing is
Exactly.
the overall thing is still like, okay, like I think the England bowlers I don't think, like, if I look at the series, I think Anderson has bowled pretty well. I think Broad bowled pretty well. I think Robinson has bowled pretty well. I think these guys have all bowled well, but they're still limited bowlers in these conditions, right? These aren't the ideal conditions for them. The bowlers, Mark Wood obviously had a really good first test match as well. I mean, the only bowler I think who's actually been mediocre is Chris Wokes, but he's like a bit undroppable because he's scoring more runs than anyone after that.
Well, Wokes is out for the next test. You do know that, right?
Injury or
No.
dropped
He's
him.
getting dropped.
oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know.
okay.
I actually didn't know that. Okay, well, so like Wokes is the only bowler I
I
think
mean-
who's bowled atrociously bad in both test matches, but I think they all bowled well, but they don't have the same
I
threat.
think the issue also, if you watch the second innings for Australia, so third innings, I think.
Third
yeah.
innings, yeah.
The very like the immediate when England opened the bowling, immediately they picked up like 4 wickets, right? And then from there they started pulling their length back, which entirely ruined their plan. The moment they started pitching up the ball, it made a huge difference. So they were picking up wickets, although they were giving up runs. I think that's going to be the key thing, right? You pitch up the ball, you're going to pick up wickets in Australia.
Right.
So
But I mean, the game was already lost by then. They were not going to win
course.
anyways.
But I mean, not necessarily. If you keep them to under 200, then there's still a chance of like,
yeah, but
I
they
guess
had,
there's
they had a pretty decent lead.
But
I mean, the thing was like, thing is, Travis Head is looking like Travis Gilchrist right now. He's coming in, attacking, and playing 100+ strike rate. So when you pitch it up, that's in the slot zone. So they had to drag their lengths back a little. Marnus just leaves everything that's not on the stumps, anyways. He's extremely difficult to bowl to, and he's easily, so far, even though with a little bit of luck, he's been easily the batsman of the series so far. Scored I'm sure he was man of the match, right? He scored 150 in this game, but I mean, the thing is, on flat this pitch was pretty flat. Let's be honest. You could tell by the fact that on the final day, England were able to bat like 80 overs almost, ball their 20 off 200+ balls. There was not much movement, not too much spin either for Lion, but it's a pretty flat pitch, so it's going to be very, very difficult for a team of 125 to 135 max bowlers to get Warner, Smith, and Marnus. It seems like the only way to get these guys out is get them to 90, and then they're just not converting they get the nervous 90 breaks. But That's still more than whatever England batsmen are scoring. England batsmen are more rushed by the pace. The fact that
we don't need to dwell too much on Australian batting for overall. I think one player that we can look at briefly is Cameron Green. First innings, and previous match as well. He's been scoring fairly low, but then I believe Ponting pointed out a couple of technique changes.
technical flaws, right?
Yeah. So
Seems
which he
like
changed, and he scored the 33 off 43, which was it's a solid innings and not out as well. So
I think we reiterated in the previous podcast that Cam Green, while he's bowling very, very well this series, his value in the team is going more as a batsman, considering how strong Australia's pacers are. But I think he's doing a very good job with the ball right now, and I think the runs will come.
One of the important things about Green that I think we didn't properly acknowledge at the start of the series is that in a cramped schedule like this, where tests are played back to back with often no more than a week between them, you cannot put the same load on 4 bowlers as you normally would in a series. What Cam Green allows them to do is it allows Pat Cummins, Mitch Starc, Josh Hazelwood to not have to bowl 20 overs in an innings. And
the England batsmen are helping with that too. Don't forget that.
Of course. But part of it, right, like is he helps give him a bit of a rest, which means higher efficacy for Australia's attack because they're more rested, able to bowl at quicker spells and faster speeds. But the other thing that's important with Green is, like you guys mentioned, he has something that no one on either side really has, which is the ability to bowl at 140 while getting an unholy amount of bounce. And that is something that has troubled just about every batsman. All of England's batsmen have weaknesses against this to some degree, even Joe Root. And the reason is because the English pitches do not test this. There is no wicket in England in which you have to regularly contend with the ball pitching just short of a length and rising up to your shoulder in the way that Cam Green makes do here.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Case in point being, although this wasn't Green, Hamid, very low hands, got bowled, nicked a ball that jumped from Richardson. So
they've talked a lot about Hamid's low hands and why that
I mean,
susceptible to
it didn't really play a factor until this. Exactly.
He's getting dropped the next test too. Hamid is out, Crawley's in. And the logic that England are using for this is exactly that. It's better to have a back foot dominant player like Crawley is because they hope he can replicate the success of players like Milan in Australia.
He won't score though.
I think that's the thing. At the end of the day, the main currency is runs. Whatever your technique, front foot, back foot, if you're not scoring runs, it's hard to stay in. And Crawley hasn't scored runs since that one innings against Pakistan.
Yeah, Crawley's a proven failure, and he averages 31 at first class. I'm not going to expect him to do anything.
I don't know if I'd
he's
call
still
him
a young player, right?
Failure. He's 21.
He's not he's not Rory Burns. He's not someone he got into the side by weight of runs. He got in through literally looking good. He's like, so he's not like.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
I don't think he's not going to score. If he hasn't dominated county attacks, how he's going to dominate this Australian bowling attack?
Let me ask you this though: who's better?
Than who?
Between who?
Than Zach Crawley. Hamid's confidence is shot right now.
Oh, I still think Hamid is better.
I don't think Hamid's been playing that poorly.
I think he played well first test. I think. Yeah. The ball from Richardson was an absolute ripper. Like bounced off a length. I think the second dismissal wasn't as good.
I mean, if you're looking at Hamid and Burns, I'd take Hamid still.
I think Rory Burns will get this.
I think I would take Burns because Burns has a proven weight of runs. I think in the long term, Hamid is the answer for England. Mm-hmm. I don't think they've managed him exceptionally well. I don't think he should have been put into the firing line like that in his second series back because England didn't.
Milan's second series of Test cricket was also the Ashes last time too, and second series back.
Very different, very, very different proposition. Opening the batting versus batting at. Versus batting at 3 in Australia because Milan,
it's not. He's coming in the second over. It's not. There's no difference at all.
Yeah, but
Milan and he's a lefty having to deal with Lyon.
Cook and Stoneman put up better stands than that.
No, they didn't. They really did not. Cook got until the double 100. Cook was getting out in the first 5 overs.
Maybe you're right. Actually, maybe it's.
I don't think you can give them the excuse of opening.
That's true.
You're 3.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me,
I think they all suck. Let's just
that's the thing. None
I
of
don't
them are
think
that great.
I think we could just like they could dump Dan Lawrence. They could dump in Donnie. So I don't think any of them will score. Like here's the thing. I just think like it's just proven like there's no new guy that we don't have a track record for in the England squad. They're all people who have been dropped from the team already, right? So like I think
Yeah.
isn't Ollie Pope also is he in the team squad still?
Ollie Pope is getting dropped for the next game, and
Bairstow
his
or
place Bairstow is coming in. And Bairstow averages about 28 in the last 3 years, so it's not as if he's some exceptional player.
I bet
either right now.
their only hope on Bairstow is that he does have 100 in Australia. That's probably the only thing that makes me think maybe, but nah. I mean, Melbourne, MCG, this could be a place for England to make a little comeback. I mean, they batted pretty. It can be a very flat wicket at times, and they did. This is where Cook scored his double hundred last time, but if England will score, that means we can see a double hundred from one of the four guns of Australia now. The way Travis Head is playing, I don't know. I think England is. There's nothing interesting to say. Like I mean, Root's back to how he used to play in Australia, just 50 and out. His balls. I hope his balls is working now. Milan is obviously Root and Milan had a good series so far. I mean, Milan's scored a couple nice 80s. So has Root. Milan and Root's partnership did give a lot of hope and confidence to the England batting until they collapsed mightily yet again. Combination also poor batting with great bowling from Stark and Lyon, and then but
Richardson 5 for as well.
Richardson in the second innings really showed up. I mean, I honestly think I think I said this in the preview. I didn't really think England had an opportunity even with but when we did the preview, we didn't know Cummins would be out yet. But even after Cummins was out, I still thought England would still get destroyed because I knew Richardson is quality. I knew Neester's quality enough. And I know the England batsmen aren't quality enough to sustain this type of bowling. And Richardson and Neester are really good bowlers. So, and they'd probably be in the England bowling team easily. They'd probably be better than half the England bowling attack.
What do you think about the spinner situation for England going into the MCB match? Or MCB, sorry. I'm stuck in Berkeley, sorry. MCG match.
I think you do.
They're taking Leach.
I think, dude, it's honestly, I don't know. It's really hard. I believe you have to pick a spinner. I just think there's too many lefties. I think the problem is there's too many lefties. I think
also the MCG pitch isn't supposed to give that much assistance for spinners, especially someone like Jack Leach that doesn't rely on bounce a lot. In Australia, the spinners, they get bounce. They don't really get as much turn. And now that said, England are planning on dropping Stuart Broad for Jack Leach. So that will be interesting.
And Wood for Wokes or
Wood for Wokes, Broad for Leach.
So they got.
What do you think about Ollie Stone coming
in? For Broad. Ollie Stone has a stress fracture.
Ollie Stone is injured.
Okay, got it.
I think Ollie Robinson is gonna continue and he's gonna play as England's main off spinner next game. Had a pretty good spell out there. Had some nice
3 overs is nice.
Yeah. I think Ollie Robinson bowling off spin in the second test is gonna epitome England's Ashes at the moment that they were forced to do something like that. I think
absolutely disgraceful.
Simply because the amount of lefties, I think Joe Root should be the main sitter. I would not pick Leach yet. Just if there were one more righty maybe in the top order, maybe. But I just think the control and MCG pitch. I mean, I know Ashwin and Jadeja had success there last year. This is where India started their turnaround, but
they're different quality.
Yeah, we just can't compare that to those two, right?
And Ashwin's extremely smart in bowling. He doesn't need the pitch to turn. He can slide it into the pads as well.
Spinners I don't think spinners have had success. I'm thinking 2 years ago we got like Mitchell Santner bowling at MCG getting hit. Yasser Shah's record is poor there, so I think might just have to rely on Giroud, who's picked up 4 wickets in the series, so it's not terrible. Yeah. Milan can roll his arm over.
If you get to that point, it's pretty depressing.
It's pretty depressing. I mean, we're talking about legitimate part timers here right now. So yeah.
It could have just been a thing to rest the players because they were going to declare anyways, and they were playing for the draw. So
I know. Though they needed those overs from Root and Milan because of overrate issues as well. They keep getting fined too. So England getting screwed everywhere. Injuries, they're losing matches, they're overrate, they're literally losing WTC points. They're not gaining any, but they're also losing. And WTC points over rate was something that cost Australia the final last time. So
Line bowling well again. It's been a while, but
we bowled well in the first test. What are you saying?
he was okay. It wasn't great.
4 wickets.
Yeah. But
Lions always bowled well against England in these conditions.
To be fair, anyone would bowl well against England.
I think I can roll my arm and bowl Osman too. I mean, Lyon's a good bowler. He has Stark definitely stepped up because like Jai Richardson was leaking a bit in the first innings, and Neeser wasn't that effective when Milan were batting. So they really stepped up, took charge, and then obviously Richardson came through well in the second innings. I think Hazelwood is still out for the next match, so I think Cummins will probably come in for Nesser. Hopefully Michael Neeser plays the last test. I hope. He's.
I mean, yeah. If it's gonna be 4-0, then he might as well play.
He might as well play a 5th test. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next match is MCG. The match after is Sydney, right? That's not day night. Right?
And then Hobart.
And then the last test is Hobart,
which is day night.
Hobart is probably the best chance England has of winning a game, and that's because at that point the Aussies might decide they might want to rest Mitch Stark.
Okay, yeah. So if I see Australian team, I think Australian team will keep these same. They'll probably replace Neeser with Cummins, and then I think because assuming they win the series, Mitchell Stark should be rested for the 4th test then, because he should play the pink ball 4th test Sydney. That might be the match. They might
depend on how much they care.
I think if for the good of Australian cricket, looking at the fact that they have 3 series in Asia coming up, they should play a second spinner in that 4th test. Sydney is a pitch that does favor spin, and they need to see how Mitch Swepson will play. So I think they will give a debut to him there.
I will say I don't necessarily know if everyone's saying 5-0 Australia. I agree that that's a median case, but I don't necessarily know if I would rule out England's odds of winning a test or drawing one, just because, I mean, it's kind of pathetic that we're discussing it at that point, but like the odds of winning or drawing a single test. But a couple of reasons for it, namely, number one, there is still a heavy degree of variance in these games. And secondly, as the series goes on and as Australia might rest their players, the truth is this: England are not a great team, but they're also better than the garbage that they've shown over the last 2 tests. Unequivocally, they are. They're not.
I mean, England are not a garbage test team. They're the worst.
They've played like one.
No, they're the worst test team of the best teams.
That's correct.
Off the top 4, they're the worst. That's it.
But right now, the way they're playing, they wouldn't have even beaten West Indies. That's the thing.
They did not beat West Indies in West Indies.
You know my point.
I know, but here's the thing. They've played bad, but like it's been like, it's not surprising. Like we literally predicted this in our previews. It's not that different from 2017. In fact, they're playing worse than 2017 for sure.
Yeah, I'd say that too. The only difference is last series they had one different player step up each game and the others had failed. This time it's just Joe Root and Dawid Malan.
Yeah, you've
got a feel for Joe Root though. I mean, on one hand,
if I broke my balls, I'd feel pretty bad too.
The man literally lost his future children.
I mean, he already had a kid though, right? I remember.
Yeah, that's probably all that he'll have, unfortunately.
Right. Well, that kid, he can live my life, only child. It's fine. Good on him.
But no, the thing is with Root, at some point, if you listen to his press conference at the end of the test, George DeBell of The Cricketer pointed it out too, but I have never seen Joe Root that frustrated with his team. And I've watched England cricket very, very closely for the last 10 years. And I have never seen Root, since he took over captaincy in 2016, I've never seen him this frustrated with his team ever.
I mean, it's been a dismal year for England cricket. If you really look at it, like,
yeah, it's just been Root carrying the team to victories here and there.
Look at the entire thing. Like, yeah, we know the testing's not good, but they didn't even win the T20 World Cup, the format they were favorites for. So it's not been a good year for England cricket. They've been preparing, rotating for this Ashes, and I think I said this in the summer when we were previewing either New Zealand series or India series. Stop focusing on the Ashes. You're gonna lose that. At least beat India and New Zealand at home. That should be your focus, not this rotation and rest policy. Well, it makes sense. Obviously, it makes sense, and they were never gonna win this series. The only chances were if their batting was better, and they had the 3 main pacers. But even with that 3 on pace attack, their bowling might have been better, but I don't think their batting would have given the results still desired. And I think, looking at the test team in the future, they need to look at a better structure. I mean, they play way too much cricket first of all in April, May, and then September, August when the ball is doing way too much.
Yeah.
And then, so like, the main issue is like that 100, all that stuff. It's just it just doesn't allow proper test cricket to be played in non-seaming conditions, and even in seaming conditions, England batsmen are absolutely clueless as well. So there's just a lot that needs to be changed. That's why I don't want to even like lament over selection, because I don't think selecting a different team or anything would have changed the results. Maybe they need to go to South Africa and go buy a couple of batsmen from there. Maybe that's their thing. But that's US's job now to buy batsmen from other countries. So
I think it's telling that there have been 3 genuine pace talents that have come in England over the last decade, and maybe 2 genuinely good test quality batsmen that have been produced. Joe Root, Ben Stokes for the batsmen.
mm-hmm.
You could have argued Johnny Bairstow, but he, I would say rightly, gave up his test form.
He's just a white ball great.
He gave up his test form to reinvent his game for white ball cricket. We've covered this in previous podcasts before. Bairstow used to average 60 during his Anis Mirabilis.
Exactly, we covered it. You don't have to talk about it.
Just as concerning for me is the fact that, okay, if you're not producing amazing batsmen, if you're producing great bowlers, that's fine. But England's best bowler that they produced over the last decade has come from Barbados. So
wait, Anderson
wasn't produced over the last decade.
Oh yeah, well, his career has been in the last decade, 29.
No. But okay, Anderson was produced during a different development system. Since the 2011, 2012 Loughborough came around, right? The best pacers England's have produced have been Mark Wood, Ollie Robinson, Jofra Archer. The best of them came from Barbados. Mark Wood has spent.
Ollie Robinson's played for 6 months.
And Ollie Robinson's played for 6 months, so they haven't really had the time to wreck him yet. You're not producing good batsmen. You're not producing good bowlers. What are you producing?
Here's the thing. Let's talk about one of the guys who we said was going to be dropped, right? Who I think could have been a fix for number 3 in this team. Chris Woakes is a world-class cricketer. Let's be honest. He is world-class cricketer in white ball, and he's great. And he has a better home record than even Anderson and Broad. But we know Woakes outside, he's just not that effective. I think he's talked about working on bowling with the Kookaburra ball better. And we saw like limited success when England went to New Zealand and South Africa in 2019. He had a couple of decent tests, but I still wasn't like, that's not enough really to say. But he talked about dragging his length back, hitting the pitch harder, but it's just not his strength. His strength is seaming the ball around with great control and bowling, setting batsmen up with outswing and getting them when the ball comes in. And you can't do that in these conditions. And I believe that if Archer and Stone were fit, that Woakes not even been in the reckoning for the 11. But he's really just like made to look. He doesn't have a chance in these conditions bowling to this quality batsman. The only way he could play in the team right now is he could bat at 6. I think he's looked very good in all 4 innings. He scored 20, and then 44 not out, or 44 out. But he's looked very, very good with the bat. And that's why I was a little surprised he got dropped. I might have considered a different role for him, especially with the fact that Ben Stokes hasn't fired yet in this series either. I mean, he was stranded in the first innings. I think he'll probably come into play at some point in the season. Yeah. He's that high quality player.
He's too good of a cricketer to not. And remember, he's gotten better as the series went on. The difference in his bowling from the second test to the first test to the second is night and day. The second test, he looked like a genuine test quality bowler again, who could take wickets and was a strike bowler, which is what we've seen Ben Stokes do. I think as the series goes on, he'll only get better. My trouble, though, with them is if you're relying on Ben Stokes to be your wicket taker, that's not what your seam bowling all-rounder is supposed to be there for.
Yeah, that's what your bowlers are for.
If you're relying on Ben Stokes and Joe Root to bowl, something is not exactly going right.
Right.
Those two should not be bowling 40 overs.
That's been established with the lackluster bowling attack from England. But
no, but again, I would say I would push back on that. I would say yes, there has been some lackluster bowling, but it's It's not bowling that would lose you a test match. It's bowling that if you had the right batting, you would still win.
It's
It's
not
not like
because Anderson, bro, their economies stay under 2. Anderson was like 10 overs 8 in the second inning. So it's like
exactly.
they give captain control.
Exactly. I think there's two things wrong here. Number one is Joe Root's captaincy. He says, oh, and Ricky Ponting said this too, but Joe Root said, we didn't pitch the ball up enough and it was very frustrating. You're the captain. That's your job. You tell the Pacers, I don't like the way you're bowling. And if you don't change it, I'm going to take you off and bring on someone else. And if Root can't tell his Pacers that, where's the balance of power on the side? And the second thing that frustrates me about this is if you're watching England, they have to take 15 wickets to get
Right.
10. And so as a pacer, if I see my fielders continuing to drop catches, because this is exactly what my club team does. I play for a team in San Jose called Spartans. They're a wonderful team. I love them. But every time a catch goes up, I think, oh no, what's going to happen here? And as a pacer, when that happens to you,
But my memory's blanking. Outside of Butler, what main catches are dropped?
the slip cordons dropped so many. I mean, at this point, they couldn't even
Really?
catch the coronavirus.
Really? I don't
Yeah.
remember that.
Rory
I remember,
Burns.
I remember Rory Burns the first test. I just don't remember. I remember a couple going through. I remember one going through Jimmy Anderson's hands.
Yeah, Anderson, Burns. I mean, the Australian slip cordon
It's also the
looks
no ball
like
issue with Robinson, right? So I mean,
that's
Yeah,
They've
another
all
thing.
bowled no balls.
Well,
They've all
I
been
will
bowling
say
no
this:
balls.
if you look at reports on England training, or if you watch a video, you can regularly see England's pacers stepping
that's
over the
normal.
line.
That's normal though.
That is normal, but at some point you've got to train it out of your bowlers. If you're having consistent problems with this,
I mean, I even club teams here, we all bowl no balls in the nets. It's just something that nobody really cares about. No one really has no ball issues when they go.
right? Exactly. That's fine, but England clearly do, and it's something that they should have fixed by now.
I mean, the fix is just take half a step back and you run up. Can we talk about Joss Butler? Just the test.
Yeah,
match
sure. Before we get to Butler, actually, I wanted to talk about a decent story arc with Steve Smith. We can briefly touch on this, but finally getting his captaincy back. Don't know your thoughts on it, but I think he did fairly well.
I'm glad. Australian crowd seemed to like it. They like cheered him on. No boos.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really good to see.
There's a couple of interesting things he did. Like I think he told Mitchell Stark to go over the wicket,
and
then he got Pope out because you could just see because Stark was pointing at Steve Smith. That was cool. Steve Smith has a lot of stories like that actually, where he tells the bowler to do something and they produce some result. Tactically, I think he's a very good captain. In fact, even someone on the Pune, when Steve Smith led the Pune Super Giants to the IPL final, he was captaining Dhoni in that, and people were like, "How the hell do you not give Dhoni the captain? This is IPL. It's not APL." Right. And they were like, Steve Smith is one of the best tactical players of all captains that a lot of these guys have played under, and a lot of he's very good at simple matchups. I remember him doing this to Pat Cummins, tell him to bowl ball cross seam to Martin Guptill, and the ball seamed away and then took his edge. This was like 5 years ago one day. So he has a lot of it's very interesting. I kind of like captains like that. Like when I'm a bowler, like they say something to do and it works off well.
Right. Yeah. So pretty cool to see. I think he'll definitely be a good vice captain to Pat Cummins, especially when Cummins has to bowl. He can take the brunt of the captaincy. And the work.
And even I think in the first test, I think he had said something about coming around to Ben Stokes to make him square up, and then when the catch was taken, they all pointed at Smith and Cummins. Right. You could tell by body language Smith has Okay, let's talk about Josh. Let's talk about Josh Butler.
15 ball duck in the first
15 ball duck.
And then 26 off 207.
200. A pretty fucking amazing innings, honestly, to play something like that. It just reminds me of how players it always reminds me, we talk about A.B. de Villiers and how his versatility of 30 ball hundreds to 30 runs, 200 balls to save test matches. It reminded me of that because Butler's a player who can hit the ball just as well as AB can. Right. And you look at his keeping, he's got 2 one-handed stunners and then 3 drop catches. One of Marnus, which was on when he was on 90, was absolutely atrocious late in the day. So
I mean, I'm happy for that though, because Marnus is an absolute delight to watch bat. He's so funny.
He's so funny. Yeah. Oh my god. And also we haven't covered the Australian team yet, but Marnus is, in my opinion, the best batsman in the world.
So he made it to
ICC
number 1 Well batted,
Yeah, he
man.
talks to himself. Oh my
Yeah.
god, what a clown
So
that
good.
guy is. I
David
love
Warner
him.
sledges him when he bowls.
Dude, I would too. Dude, Marnus is definitely they said this in the test. They all pick on Marnus. You could tell he
I
definitely
mean,
No,
gets
even
so
picked on.
Justin
I
Langer
okay.
did that too. He told him,
You,
"Stop stuffing the sandwich in your pocket when you go out."
yeah.
And then
No,
he's
so
a
I
short
think
leg.
you guys were saying he wouldn't be a good captain option in the future. If you watch his post match conference on one of the days after he scored his 100, very composed, talked very well of other players and
I didn't
about
realize
himself. And
talking well made you a good
no,
captain.
it does, right? Because I
Now
mean
I'm fucking with you.
yeah, I know, but like it's a good media face and people love Marnus.
Yeah, I mean,
And
Marnus being captain Australia would not be a bad thing because you got someone who's
yeah,
just he's not gonna sledge the other bats. He's gonna go to like Rohit Sharma and be like, "Yo, who's your favorite player, Kohli or
yeah,
Tendulkar?"
yeah,
So like,
yeah,
you can't like if Marnus sledge you just laugh or something.
yeah.
But
But
yeah,
no,
he's a cute little guy, dude.
extremely.
Cute little Marn who just scores way too many runs, and
Yeah.
I could see him scoring at least.
What's his average? Like 63 now or something?
62. I think it's higher than Steve Smith's now. I think
Ah,
I think
kid's
he's gonna.
crazy.
I think he has 2 more hundreds in him. I think Steve Smith has 1 more hundred in him, and then David Warner has 2 more 90s in him.
All
So
right.
that's
Yeah.
my predictions for how they're gonna score. But yeah,
Cool.
Butler.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Butler.
retract. I mean, Butler's a good keeper. If you look at the success rate of his catching, he had that one bad test match I remember in Pakistan where everyone jumped on him, and
Mhm.
even that match after that, he went and scored a match-winning 80.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. He tends to have these like lopsided matches, but his his keeping rate is fairly good, and I think he's keeping his place on the side because of the innings he played. But yeah, it was a really contrast of a test
I
match.
think this might be the catalyst for him to start playing better for the rest of the series because if you face 200 balls, you're pretty much guaranteed to like see the ball
Yeah, I mean, it's
better.
eyes.
And
I mean,
it's
I
yeah,
hope, but like Butler's promised a lot in his test career. Even like
true.
you think he's about to get established, he scores a really amazing 100, and then
Oh, then
again he goes back to a dismal form, can't play spin or pace. So it's like we'll see. I mean, I don't have
yeah.
that much hope, but like
Unlucky way to get out as well.
yeah,
Okay.
Mitchell Stark looked like he was scared for his life playing not Mitchell Stark, Stuart Broad looked like he was hella
Yeah.
scared playing Mitchell Stark. So Broad was he was forced to try to get a single. So that was unlucky. He wasn't gonna get out.
That's just how Broad has been ever since 2015. So
Yeah, but like yeah, it was unfortunate on dismissal. But yeah, he very contrasting test. Very one of the strangest test matches you've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
It was like
Yeah.
just making up for blunders or making a blunder after a stunner. Let's talk
I
about the
think
one issue Australia has, which is just Marcus Harris. I think that's the only spot up for grabs.
yeah.
Sounds like he's playing the next test match. I said last time that I like to give the new guy if you backed him, give him 2 test matches, but now he's got 4 failures. And you got a player who averages 50 plus in these conditions, waiting.
Not opening though, but
He averages 96 opening, so
a very small sample size. So
yeah, okay. But like I said before, he bats at 3. Like it's not a big difference, right? I think Kawaja. I think it'd be nice if Kawaja would play now because this is as easy as it's going to get for Australia, for the Australian batsmen at the moment. I think this is probably the easiest series they're going to be playing.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, if Kawaja had played, I bet he would have. I confident he would have scored. But there's also a party that says in Australia, it's not like Marcus Harris is costing them much. Might as well just give him one more test match to back him. So I think that's. I mean,
yeah. There's no need to change the lineup if it's not. I mean, if it's not necessary, right?
Right.
So.
I think Marcus. I'll give him one more.
Mm-hmm.
It's his home ground, I think, or is he from Perth? No, he's from Perth. It's not. MG's not his home ground, but
okay.
Yeah, if he fails this, then yeah, Kawaja should get the next 2 test matches, because like, I think after like 25 innings, you'll definitely and with 250s only, he's proven he's not test level yet. We'll have to just go back to Shield, but yeah, I think that's the only thing up for grabs. I think Australia would just want runs from him, more runs from Green, but everything else working perfectly. Travis Head is literally Travis Gilchrist this series. He's just blundering England's attack after all the work of top order, and it's working perfectly. That's how ideal cricket side is, right? Your number 5, number 6 gets to play a little more aggressively because the top order put in the platform in.
Right.
Like I said in the previous podcast, I could see a big series for him considering how he's always going to come in at 300 for 3, 200 for 3. He's not coming in at 10 for 3 or 20 for 3 like last summer where he really struggled against India.
Yeah.
Solid knock from Carey, getting his maiden 50 as well.
We forgot about Carey.
Yeah,
He
I
made
mean,
his first
I
blunder.
think
keeping has
people-
been exceptional. I think
people trashed on
he's
Carey
dropped
because
it once.
Yeah, people trashed on Carey because they said, oh, he doesn't have enough first class experience. But I think one of the most important things is his keeping technique, even in limited overs, has always been sound. He's not one to drop catches. He's got good reflexes. He's taken pretty much every chance that's come to him. So he was a safe enough pair of hands. And secondly, I think what's equally important is his batting style. If you looked at his technique in ODIs, you looked at the few warm-up games that he had played, it seemed very sound, and it seemed like something where the moving ball wouldn't necessarily give him as many issues. If you looked at the World Cup 2019 in England, the ball was moving around quite a bit in some of the weirder phases, and Carey was able to navigate seam movement pretty well.
The semifinal,
Yeah,
especially. I was there at the
exactly.
ground. He played very well.
He played extremely well and almost dragged Australia to positions in which they could win the game when they had no business being there.
Yeah, I don't mean.
Yeah,
he has
it was one mistake, right? It was the one where like it went through between Warner and.
He made it, but he made that day more interesting. If he caught that, the game would have finished. So at least he just made it a bit more entertaining.
True. Yeah.
No, but the thing was, I mean, I'm not gonna be fully convinced. Like, I'd rather see him play against a tougher bowling attack coming in tougher situations. He has it pretty easy.
Yeah, but the nature of being a keeper in the Australian lineup and at home is that you generally have it.
No, I mean, like you look. I think Tim Payne's a better batsman than we think. Because last summer he played some decent knocks, and not coming at easy situations is a pretty good Indian.
Yeah, I think Tim Payne isn't going to be playing again for Australia, unfortunately.
Yeah, but like what I'm saying is like it's not always going to be like that, right? Like Tim Payne last year, I think.
Yeah.
Before the 36 all he scored a very crucial 70 when Australia were teetering, and they still didn't even get the lead, right? And then
I mean, he rarely gets out. He rarely gets out early, right? I mean, he's usually batting at the tail anyway. So I think it's a valuable trait to have.
Yeah, but I think like, like there are players who bat 6-7 and can still put crucial innings and save the team. Rishabh Pant. I mean, BJ Walding is a master of it. He's obviously retired now, but
yeah. So that, I guess that pretty much covers the second test. Predictions for the third test match in MCG.
Just like how this review is repetitive of our first review, it's gonna be just like that again. We'll talk about England batsmen failing, Australian bowling well, Warner, Labuschagne, and Smith. Blah blah.
My prediction is the next podcast that we do, we'll be covering India, South Africa instead, because we can wrap up exactly what happened in the next Ashes test by saying, go look at our past podcast. Nothing has changed.
Yeah, fair enough. All right,
but I'm excited. Boxing Day, 16 hours of cricket, 4:30 in California time. We got the South Africa India game starts 30 minutes before stumps, I think, on.
Yeah, and you're gonna stay awake for all of it, aren't you?
Dude, India, South Africa, like I have to. It's gonna be I think that series is gonna be fun. It's gonna be way better than whatever BS this series is. In fact, I might just sleep through the Ashes and watch the India, South Africa. I think this one thing I've established, the two battles I like most now, India, Australia, and then England, New Zealand. I think those are better light matchups than freaking Ashes. I think Ashes cricket is just at least in Australia, it's fairly boring.
Quick thing, Kohli 100 or not?
A lot of drama right now, right? With the captain.
Yeah.
Might trigger him. Yeah. I think he'll get.
And his celebration will have something to do with lashing out against Saurav Ganguly. I can just see it.
He won't get 100 this year, so he'll get in the next.
I want to see the bat talk thing again.
He'll do the bat
That's
talk.
That's gonna be perfect. Yeah.
He'll do it in the second test because that'll be in 2022. So he'll start 2022 with a bang.
True.
He'll leave 2021 to be a bad year.
So, I can't wait for him to start clicking.
Yeah. By the way, that's just because we're not doing a podcast on the India South Africa. I'm predicting 2-1 India for that series.
All right, awesome, cool. Thanks everyone. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, we'll be back before New Year's, but yeah, happy holidays. Enjoy your break, and we'll see you soon. Thanks everyone.
Subscribe.